Welcome back to War Thunder and welcome to the Dub Talks number 51, and today I want to talk about a few of the videos that are released recently and what I think about your responses, then why there are no tank reviews as of late, waiting for the new patch, and why I wait with playing high tiers. I'm still testing some more stuff, and yeah, death blocks, an addictive, destructible drug, I have to say, and why wargaming is a good competition for War Thunder, and why we need wargaming basically. Then also enduring confrontation and what I really think about it, and then at the end, of course, questions from the last Dub Talk. So there's a lot of stuff, a lot of random stuff, less structurized than the other Dub Talks previously. I hope you forgive me. And as usual, that is the chance for somebody to make a nice comment about the certain parts, where I will then talk about them and to be pinned on the in the comment section by me. I think this is a good competition, I guess. Yeah, so let's begin with the topics. So first of all, if I would make a tank review as of late, there are some problems associated with it. First of all, I need to play high tier with it, and sometimes it's just not fun, it's repetitive, and to make a tank review about the German KP set 70 or the Chieftain Mark 10 with the steel blue armor package, or hell, even the T64 with the composite armor, how they actually work and how the actual armor values are against which ammunition type is not easy, and it's a lot of testing, and currently I don't have the usual testers available, and yeah, I'm also a bit preoccupied with some real life stuff. However, I think I will make it after the patch, but then, yeah, you know, the new vehicles will take over, so more on this in the dev blog part of my rambling. And furthermore, a lot of the tanks that are about to be spaded are the high tier tanks, such as the T64, such as the KP set 70 and so forth, and you get bonus experience once you finish a tier of upgrades, tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4, and for example for tier 4 upgrades it can be up to 32,000 bonus of experience that you get, and I prepare for the new patch, and even though I'm in a Gaijin partnership program, I cannot expect to get all the interesting stuff at release day, so I want to focus on the premiums first. If I get them from Gaijin for, you know, looking at them for you, I will cover them, because, you know, they are very expensive, if they're worth it, if they have any hidden gems and so forth, and meanwhile I can research with them the normal tech tree versions and maybe get a good chunk out of the research for the normal tech tree versions. I'm excited about those new vehicles to a certain degree. We will see what else will be announced, and so far I guess we have a new Leopard 2K. We will see how the 122mm smoothbore will work, which ammunition it gets and so forth, which battle ratings they get. Same goes for the new MX-30B2 with the era protection, and which ammunition it will get, even if it will just get the same as the normal B2. It will be pretty good, except for the stock run, of course. Yeah, so we will see how it goes. The new patch will be huge, it will be big. Maybe we will see some changes to some game mechanics. There is a possibility, and if so, that will of course screw over my tank reviews that I would make about the KP set and the T64 and the Chieftain Mark 10 and so forth. So the you know, newer top tier tanks, and I don't want to put out a tank review that is obsolete within a few days. So there is that. Then let's talk about Subnautica. So for all of you that didn't watch the Subnautica, and there were a lot of you that didn't watch the Subnautica video, I don't want to spoil you about the story in any way, shape or form, but I want to talk about the bigger picture of Subnautica. First of all, I love the game. I've played it like 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago, for the first time when it was first available for early access. Max TV actually brought me to this game, and I thank him for that. I don't know why it really took my attention, but it was certainly worth it. So I kind of have a different view on the game, like some people that played for the very first time. I love it, it's worth it. It has a very nice ending, and especially the last sentence is absolutely hilarious if you have experienced a proper playthrough of the game. I will make maybe a few more playthrough videos, especially for the beginning, to know what are the essential parts, how to make life much easier, where to scan the essential parts for your base. Oops, spoiler. And yeah, we'll see how that goes. So I just have breached 600 views. That is not even 10% of my subscriber base. I didn't expect any huge outburst of views on this video, and the people that watched it seem to have liked it, this kind of rough overview over the game. But compared to the comments and the likes on those comments from a previous video where I spoke briefly about Subnautica, made me expect more views and more likes, and that just simply didn't happen. So it was a little downer. I didn't expect anything, and this was certainly a lesson to be learned. I can't blame you, you're all here for War Thunder, so don't worry guys. Nothing bad about this. Other than that, the German commentary on the Befehlsjagdpanther had a much bigger impact, and I released it just today, and all the views that came in, all the likes that came in, all the nice comments that came in, and so forth. It seems like if you are a German and you make, English videos or videos in English, and you get a subscriber base around the world that is used to listening stuff in English, but you also have a decent subscriber base in Germany, it's pretty interesting how people react to it when you make then a German commentary. I once did one before in the Panzer IV F2, of which I released a tank review just a few weeks ago, to talk about a little bit of the low tier overpoweredness, quote unquote, of this tank. If you don't know what I'm talking about, have a look at it. It's really funny and interesting to have a summary of the lower tier stuff around about 3.3. So the comparison is very interesting, especially to the German and to the T-34. So yeah, you guys really liked my German, but I have to say the commentary was not easy to make, because you're so used to those English terms like spawn zone, capture zone, killing somebody, those are completely different words in Germany, and you have to really think about those words because you never use them, even if you talk to somebody else that is playing War Thunder with you in a squad, if it just happens to be, and you speak in normal English, you also use the terms kill, spawn zone, capture zone, and so forth. But the actual German words, if you truly want to make a pure German commentary, it seems like impossible. So many terms have made their way into the German language, or the German gamer community language, so to speak, that you're just way too used to it to make a fluid German commentary. Furthermore, there is a difference between talking proper German and making a little bit of accent apparent in it, or actually to hide your accent. And a lot of you might know that I'm living in Bavaria, and therefore I have a very strong accent. So for me it's much easier to talk English than to talk the so-called High German. By the way, there is a funny thing about the so-called Hochdeutsch, which actually comes from the southern part of the German-speaking people, not just Bavaria, but also Baden-Württemberg and Austria and Switzerland and so forth, because there the actual term High German came from, and it was exported into northern Germany, which is more associated with speaking High German than the southern part, which actually invented it. It had to do with the Luther Bible, or however you want to call it. So it's a pretty interesting story if you go into those details. So you might be interested in knowing that. Back to War Thunder. Okay, German commentary, you guys were interested in it. But what happened with the BMP1 video? It was the first time that I played War Thunder in simulator mode for, again, years, or at least 1 year, 1.5 years, something like that. And the very first game was on Maginot Line with a really nice light tank. It was kind of a fair fight between Leopards and so forth, so I really enjoyed it. I had instant ace, and I thought, well, this is kind of the best footage that I'll ever get, not because of the 5 kills, but of the impressions of the game mode after 5 years. And that was also the only battle in simulator mode that I played so far. So then again, I didn't get the views, but in the comments that were made were quite positive about it. So again, I'm not complaining about this in any way, shape or form. It's very interesting to see what people actually tend to look at all when I make videos. And whereas my tank reviews are established to a certain degree, where people are really interested in them to get proper facts from within the game, you know, just put into Excel data sheets and comparing therefore the tanks amongst each other throughout the battle ratings or classes and so forth and nations. With the average gameplay, when I tend to kind of get a bit sidetracked from this, you instantly get a big backlash in the amount of views that you get. If I play a prop plane, nobody watches it. I mean, in contrast to my tank videos, if I make even a chat gameplay, not that many people are watching it, more than with my props. But a lot of the chats are just difficult to play the 8.0s. Not ranting here, but just as an observation. So to make a very good gameplay out of this is very difficult. And even when I had an ace with the F3D1 at 9.0, I could have properly expected more views than I got. I'm not mad about the views that I got, but it's just an observation. You might think, hey, people might be interested in this, and you make the video because you have the appropriate footage. You talk about it, and then the people that are just out of pure principle disagreeing with you or deliberately misunderstanding stuff that you actually said in that video, it's again very interesting. Yeah, then let's talk about the upcoming dev blogs, what I think about them, and why I say things like, yeah, they are like an addictive drug, but they are also destructive. They're spoiling the stuff that will be implemented in 1.77, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's nice to see what will come into the game with the new patch. It's a bit of hyping, it's a bit of looking into the future, stuff that we can look forward to, and a lot of discussion, speculation going on. And this is really a thing of man, you know, there is this German word fachsimpeln. Okay, so you discuss it because you're a bit nerding around, basically. What do you think about this? Then they also should introduce that and this and that modification and this add-on package, and the forums absolutely got wild, especially when the Challenger got introduced. You know, for all of you tier boos out there, we'll see how this plays out. You know, if it can't go all down. I mean, it's nothing but a modified, spiced up chieftain. I'm sorry about this, but do you really think that this lower plate will withstand an APHE shell? We will see. Let's wait for the dev server, let's wait for the actual gameplay. People say so, other people say the other way around. So we'll have to see. I'm making no assumptions, I'm just asking questions here. So yeah, the new high tier stuff. Yeah, good stuff, good shiny stuff. It still is a lot of grinding to do. So if you're really looking forward to it, I guess you guys bought gold needles to throw them at Gaijin without asking any questions in the shape of shut up and take my money. I mean, it seems like it has paid off so far for Gaijin. They have chosen to go this route, so there is not a lot that we can do about this. New sounds, new graphics. I mean, the new graphics, especially in conjunction with the Dagger Engine 5.0, I'm really excited about it. We will see how it will play out, how the systems will take it, if they have addressed the ULQ issues at all. I mean, what we saw in the dev block was, I didn't see any difference for ULQ players when it comes to rendering bushes and walls at long range. We'll have to see, because it was just one sliding picture. We will have to see. But you know, it's kind of addictive. You have no other choice but to look at such a dev block. Not just because I'm a YouTuber and I need to know everything that there is to know about the game, but it's simply the fact that yeah, you don't want to be the one that gets left behind with the news. Let's put it that way. And that brings us to wargaming. Now, wargaming has made a big announcement, or some of the Wall of Tanks featuring or covering YouTubers such as Quickie Baby have made videos about Wall of Tanks 1.0, and I was just simply stunned with how the maps will look like, how the surrounding of the map will look like, the new explosion, HD textures, HD maps, more HD tanks, and so forth. But then you have to think about one thing. What we will see with this patch just before Wargaming will release 1.0? Yeah, a graphic update for War Thunder. Well played, Gaijin, well played. So that one of the main advantages of War Thunder, you know, being looking better than wargaming titles, still is there. But both titles, both companies, just don't give a shit about balance anymore. You know, there are entire plane lines, entire tank lines, entire ranges of battle ratings for planes and tanks alike that are not that nice to play for War Thunder, and the same goes for World of Tanks, you know. And then when we see how both games focus on premiums as of late, and how competitive or even slightly better premiums are, you know, and I'm not specifically naming here tanks like the T-29 and IS-6 when they came out. I'm just saying, guys, just please don't overdo it, okay? And if there wouldn't be wargaming, who would be the competition to a certain degree to wargaming? It's good that there is wargaming as a competition for the normal person that has a decision to make if he plays that game or the other game, to focus on the grind, because if you play, you know, both games, you don't have double the time to play them, to grind them, because it takes a lot, and I mean a lot of time and even real money investment to make a progress at the new desired high tier tanks. So do you think that the Leopard 2K will be any cheaper in terms of research? Do you think that you will get any more progress with the current tanks when researching that tank? I don't think so. I don't want to rant about this or de-hype you guys, but this is an essential thing that you have to think about. So, yeah, then we come to enduring confrontation. So, last weekend there was an enduring confrontation, and initially I loved it. Every 3 games that I played with the Germans, I lost. And I just had time for those 3 games, because every enduring confrontation match can take up to 3 hours. And there were some good parts about it, there were some bad parts about it, and some of the stuff hasn't changed since the introduction. And I think the last great change to enduring confrontation as an event was the variable frontline, where those happenings or those battle happens that you then can attack with your ground attackers. And yes, it's really fun to fly there with, for example, a Duck or a ME410 B6R3 and just rack up the ground kills, but it doesn't pay off. Really, the stuff that you get, the pure profit is next to nothing Silverline wise, and even RP wise. You know, if you take part in such a battle for 2 hours or hell even 3 hours and you lose the match, you probably could have played 1 or 2 realistic battles in normal RP and just had made a greater grind progress, except if you did a lot of the ground striking. The next thing is that I was really disappointed that the teams were that small, okay, and at the end there was just one enemy player, a real player, and me facing each other, and we kind of ignored each other, and at the end it was just okay, we go for the enemy AI. And yeah, after 2 hours I was like, okay, I have enough, I'm just going out, and therefore I lost the battle, I guess. Despite having a point advantage, but I couldn't afford to stay in the game for another hour. I just you know, had to eat something. I had to go to the toilet after drinking so many bottles of water, because you know it's quite intensive to play this game mode. And I think this was very disappointing. Yes, it was exciting if you attacked the ground forces and had an impact. I also flew a few bombers and some fighters. The German fighters still suck, but the ground attackers are great, and the bombers are also pretty fast. It has so much potential, and Gaijin just wastes it. And when a player left, he wasn't replaced with another player that has probably join in progress activated. And this is kind of how the enduring battle itself dies out after a while. And so it's not enduring, it's just exhausting. And it's just a bit annoying. And again, it was better than to leave the battle after an hour, because then it was just simply better to begin with a new fresh battle. Then there was some really stupid things in it, like when you got shot down with your plane, not crashing but get shot down, you couldn't instantly spawn it, even if you had a backup available. No, you had to wait 35 minutes. Okay, therefore you have a lineup, right? Yeah, but even in that lineup, for example, if I had the Dojo and 17K and the M both in slots, and I was shot down with, for example, the M, the K got locked alongside with it for 35 minutes. So in theory, if I have 4 different lines with 8 planes in my entire lineup, and I got shot down 4 times, 8 planes are locked. That is just stupid, okay? And this is something that they really need to rework, because there is no sense behind it whatsoever. If a plane gets locked for 10 minutes, okay. If you can use, if you need to use, you know, 2 or 3 different types of planes, you know, you need to play a bomber and an attacker before you can use a fighter again, if you have them in the lineup, that is, that's the other question, then I'd be okay with it to bring a certain dynamic to the gameplay. But to lock entire bomber lines is just hilariously broken, okay? And I see no sense in it. And again, it just makes my heart bleed, because it has so much potential. There's just so little effort put into it. There are so many obvious bugs if you play one battle for yourself. I have no idea who is that uninterested at Gaijin about enduring confrontation. Don't get me wrong, enduring confrontation is something that I would love to play more often if it would be done properly. I love the AI planes, the AI bomber formations that attack. I love the ground battles that happen to appear out of nowhere on certain areas of the map. I love the overall point progression. I love the potential for a long time gameplay. It's something new, it's something exciting, it's something more or less unseen within War Thunder. It shakes up the stomped in RRB meta, the normal realistic battle. And to let it just die off like that, sorry about this, because of no effort put in after 1.5 years, I guess, You know, again, we're talking here of development time over years, like with ships, like with tanks, like with the tank game modes. Again, it all comes together again and again and again. It's just so much wasted potential. It would make the game just shine much more with so little development time effort. I have no idea how to develop a game. Okay, I'm not a developer, but when I ever read between the lines, Gaijin says, yeah, it needs months and months for a developer to recreate a vehicle from reality into the game. And I tend to agree with that, because the vehicles and the models of them are looking absolutely stunning, okay? The next thing is then that, how to say it, the biggest issues that can be solved quite easily are down to changing numbers. And I work long enough with Excel to tell you that to make out of a 7.7 8.3, or out of a 7.3 for a plane 8.0, doesn't take that much longer, okay, than to make a complete Excel sheet comparison and cut it out with the snipping tool and save it as a picture to implement that in a tank review. You know, it's not that I know nothing, but it's weird. Sometimes I really ask myself, who's in charge? Because some things just don't fit together and could be solved by somebody with a little bit of game experience, with access to the game servers within 1 week's time. That's my impression. That's I'm convinced with. Okay, so yeah, it gets reflected with enduring confrontation, with the income in tank RP, which is garbage, and so forth. So let's reflect what I just talked about. I talked about the new patch, the upcoming stuff, the graphics, sound, and other additions to the game and improvements. All might be down a little bit to the competition of wargaming, at least the fast output. Then premium vehicles seem to pay off for Gaijin a lot. The new high tier stuff seems to be very favorable for Gaijin, but the old issues haven't been solved. A lot of the old stuff hasn't been reworked in a long time, which doesn't seem to require that huge amount of work on it, and could be done by not necessarily a person that designs a vehicle, but somebody else at Gaijin that actually would care about the game and the live quality within War Thunder. And it's a bit of a letdown. I've talked enough about this stuff in the past, so yeah. Dev blocks are addictive, no doubt about this, but let's bring a bit new, fresh blood to War Thunder. And I'm not talking about new vehicles, okay? There is already so much in the game. There's already so much to research and to progress through that a normal person with a, I guess, normal life cannot unlock all this stuff, except if he spends huge, and I mean huge amounts of money. And if it really pays off to milk the whales, you know, persons that don't care about money at all and are ready to willing to spend thousands upon thousands of dollars on the game, or euros, and Gaijin goes that route to milk them like EA is, instead of improving a little bit the gameplay once in a while, then, I mean, the most beautiful graphic doesn't matter for me. The most beautiful sound or sound mod that I can install myself doesn't matter for me if it's just not fun to play the vehicles. And I tried a little bit high tier vehicles myself recently. It's just point and click. A lot of the tactic, you know, preparation, ambushing and so forth, doesn't pay off that much, or isn't that satisfying. The fight, fire and maneuver playstyle that I prefer myself is not that important at higher tiers, and it's just who has the most upgrades, who's the fastest, and who can fire at the best on the move with the best stabilizer. This is the high tier meta, and that's not necessarily enjoyable for everybody that just wants to drive around with, I don't know, his IS-2 or his Judgel or his Tiger, you know, just to name a few tanks here, or his Sherman for all intents and purposes. Yeah, so I'm waiting for the new patch. I'm excited about it, but not as excited as if the rest of the game would be better at the moment. War Thunder, don't get me wrong, is far from dying. War Thunder is still a winner, but it could be so much more. It could be so much better with a bit more effort in the right places. And I wouldn't play like 5 years this game if I wouldn't be convinced by that. And if I couldn't experience in certain regions, hell, there are battle ratings that are outright fun and stupid fun without thinking about it, without being, you know, overpowered, where your skill really matters. And it's distributed between arcade and simulator and planes and tanks alike. So if you have problems with a certain battle rating, jump back in your progress and just enjoy the game, as I have recently. And this is something different for a change, which you should experience yourself, because what is the grind worth if you don't have fun at all? Then finally, let's talk about questions from last Dub Talks. So there are a lot of questions, and the first of the question comes from Valentin Mayalescu, and he says, I have some questions. Why do you have tanks from 5.7 to 9.0 have the same Silverline boosters, though they are more expensive at higher tiers? Well, I guess Gaijin wants us to force to buy ourselves premium plane or premium tank to support our play of higher tier vehicles that we grinded so long for, and you know, higher ammunition costs, APFSDS, APDS and Heatfest that you have to unlock are also pretty expensive. I mean, think about the Silverline cost of the Leopards, Heatfest shell, same goes for the M60 and Type 74 and so forth. And yeah, that's the only thing that I can come up with, and in general the reward at higher tiers is just a big joke and should be reworked. Next question, wouldn't it be cool to be able to reload fire prevention equipment at least once in a cap? Absolutely yes, and that would promote the long endurance gameplay that Gaijin has the potential to advertise in a realistic battle where it matters. Then God Silk's Hero asks, nice video Napalm. In the next Duck Talks, can you please address the issue of space climbers and passive players in RRB and why RRB is losing players? First of all, I don't know if RRB is losing players. Are there any viable sources? I have seen this recently a lot in the comment section and in other people or YouTubers comment sections, and I think it was first brought up by some YouTubers that wanted to draw attention, that are not okay with how War Thunder RRB is working out lately and that no changes have been done. It depends on the time of day and also time of the week, how the player base fluctuates within RRB. Sometimes it loses players, sometimes it's gaining it. And yeah, it should be reworked, and I don't think it takes that much effort to rework it properly. A quick response to comments from OBHBO and Jay Keating, and they complain about the quality of the video not being there. Sorry, it's not my fault, it's YouTube. This was a long video, and I gave YouTube over an hour, 1.5 hours to process, and then I thought it would be finished after it said it's already finished. I gave it another 1 hour to process it for higher resolution, and I thought I could release it, but no. So this is YouTube for you. I'm sorry guys, but it's just so long that I can wait before I have to release the video. So another comment that you know, caught my attention is from UK Octane, and he basically said in a rather long video that he gets a bit worried with people talking good about enduring confrontation. By the way, I covered it in the beginning and said some not so nice things about it, just to keep it in perspective. And he is worried about this because he thinks people have not embraced the knowledge about what it did to simulator mode, where it is basically the only simulator mode. First of all, I agree that it is a poor game design to make it the only option for that game mode, so to speak. If we want to implement enduring confrontation into the choices that you can make for your game modes, then it should be a parallel mode to the normal air realistic battle, which takes approximately, or on average, 10 to 20 minutes to play per match and has a better income per hour, you know. And yeah, it should be reworked and should be worked on quite a bit, and people should really think about this twice. It's just exciting and new and relatively rare, but at the end it needs rework before we can implement it, and it should be more than just an event. That is at least my opinion. Then 6 questions come from RetoK99. First question: why Chieftain can't pen a T64 from the front plate? Well, at least for the Chieftain Mach 10, I can tell you this. From time to time I can penetrate with the APDS, but it's rather rare at close distance and when he's not angled. However, the AP FSTS has no difficulties whatsoever with the T64's front plate. What ships will be in tier 5 or 6 if tier 6 ships will be available? First of all, I have no idea what Gaijin will come up with in the next testings or after it goes into closed beta even. If Gaijin will ever go to tier 6 ships, which kind of ships we will see in the game depends on the tech and which kind of weapon systems they will get, and if it will be fun to play. But I think we'll have no influence on this, so we'll have to see. We'll have to wait for probably another 3 years before ships will come out with the current speed of progress, which is way too slow, at least in my opinion. And then third question: could you lend me $1 million to buy some tanks? First of all, no, I can't, even if I would want to give you. Second of all, I doubt you ever could pay it back. And yeah, I agree to the next part of the sentence or the comment that tier 4 to 6 is to a certain degree sometimes unfun and yeah, just drains money. Usually I think that the income is just a big joke. Even when you have those awesome games with a double A's and booster and a premium tank and a premium account, you just don't get the same amount that you get for RRB with 3 normal kills in a normal plane, which is kind of a big laugh in my opinion. Even though you captured and you made a lot of spotting and kill assists and so forth, it's just way too underwhelming. Then fourth question talks about the matchmaking spread of 1.0 and if it would make sense to reduce it to 0.7. First of all, yes, but just as an interim solution, so not as the final solution, because at the end it doesn't really matter if you are constantly facing tanks 1 battle rating up or 0.7 battle rating up when the matchmaker just refuses to work properly with a what I call a mirror matchmaking, which needs to be introduced. We need to have the same amount of equal battle rating planes in particular and also tanks on both teams. It's a joke that we constantly see full teams of Tigers with 1 Tiger 2 thrown in against a full British team of 6.3s and 6.7s. That's just a big joke. I'm sorry about this. And that's just talking about the matchmaker, not about the quality of the vehicles themselves. And this is a very common example. I see it also at battle rating 7.7 and even 8.7 throughout the nations, by the way. Then fifth question, I cannot answer to it. I cannot confirm nor deny it. I haven't tested it, but yeah, the T-34-85 bounces a lot of shots even from the hull, but when it bounces the shots from the hull from a caliber of 75mm and up, that has to do that you hit the driver's hatch, which is thicker, and if it then bounces, you had a really bad roll with the dice with certain introductions of rules, like for example a 30% interaction rules like 1.5 years ago, something like this. Yeah, so Then 6 questions. Do you think War Thunder needs more TV and internet advertisement to bring new players? First of all, I don't think that they should work on new players as much as they should try to keep the current players or try to bring back players that have already left, as they might be the ones who actually will spend more money in the long run. And the advertisements that I have seen so far are pathetically bad and cheap and just ugly. I'm sorry about this. If I would have ever seen such an advertisement before I began to play War Thunder, I probably would never have began to play War Thunder at all. They are that pathetic, and they do not again reflect the potential of the game. It looks like a very cheap MMO. I'm sorry about this. Yeah. Then next question. Hi Taka123. What do you think about the B7A2? We're talking about relatively low tier Japanese fighter bomber. I love it. It's a bit sluggish, but you always can surprise enemies if you hold your altitude and attack them and surprise them while they're climbing. You can outturn them at lower altitude if they insist on a turn fight, where you can easily take them on. You have your difficulties and practically no chance against the normal flown Spitfire, but against anything else you sometimes can surprise them. You have 20mm cannons, you have a decent turn rate and so forth, so you are suited to do well in this plane. Then also the next question would be if I would recommend to play some RRB in ground attackers for a player that wants to be good in ground RB with CAS. The answer is it depends. Certain stuff you don't learn in RRB, for example how to avoid a player driven SPAA. On the other hand, to upgrade the plane to get more bombing or ground striking potential at all in the first place isn't the worst of ideas, but that also then depends on the plane itself. So for example, the American 84, if you manage to use it properly as a fighter, but therefore you have to be good, and that's not an insult, but it's not that easy, then you get much more income per battle and can also earn more credits than compared if you use it with the 12 standard rockets, which have been nerfed in normal tank RB. And when you then unlock the hydro rocket pods, you have so much more ground strike potential. It's not even funny, which kind of makes this huge difference. Again, from a tier 4 upgrade, which takes a long time to unlock. So there is that. Next question comes from Alpha Guardian. And he basically talks about the event Panthers, the TV for the Russians and the German, and both are basically Panther Ace with a low battle rating, and it doesn't make any sense, also in my opinion. And that also should advertise the regular Panther Ace Tech Tree version's battle rating to be dropped to 5.7 alongside with the F and G, because I mean, yeah, the F could technically stay at 6.0, but compared to its current competition it also would deserve a down tier, because the Panthers are good long range mediums, but when they don't have to engage the opposition that they usually can face, then it's rough, okay, and they're sluggish, the turret rotation speed is too slow, the penetration of the gun with APHE is unreliable, the damage output is not as punchy as the AP shots after the recent buff with the introduction of the French. So yeah, but then it would again lead to a compression for other vehicles that barely have a chance against the Panthers in a full up tier. So it's a long discussion. Call of Duty 974 asks, will you be happy if jets be added in the shop? If not, why? First of all, which jets? Would they be balanced? And jets, I don't play jets that often because the entire jet battle rating stuff is broken at the moment. And if Gaijin would currently put jets into the premium shop, which I doubt they do without before they would introduce tier 6 jets, if they'd ever come in the near future, then, you know, they still would go up most likely against 9.0s with 8.0 performance, and we all know that this is not a lot of fun. So for your usual premium plane to be enjoyable, I would prefer tier 4 props that are nice to fly for the silver line income and the research progress and so forth. Jets are just not fun, end of discussion. And then we have to the upcoming price of those potential premiums. We all know that they would exceed $40 and 40 euros. They would be very comparable to the current pre-order bundles of tanks with 50 euros. I mean, that's a normal game that you can buy for that price of a single premium. And if then it's not even worth it, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend it. But yeah, let's switch the topic. Marine Tech asks, Napalm, I was wondering if you had a chance to go over the data from your golden opportunity video. I realize with almost 1,000 comments it's going to take you a while to examine it all and sort through the results, but do you have any initial impressions yet? I'm eagerly awaiting to see what has come from that video. Well, first of all, yes, I had many looks at the comments, and yes, you're right, almost 1,000 comments. It's a lot. So first of all, thank you guys for participating in the comment section, and a lot of good ideas were mentioned there, but I'm waiting for the new patch. I'm already working on some basic stuff. I'm working on it, work in progress, whatever you want to call it. It's been worked on, okay, and it's a lot of work, but I wait for what the new patch will bring in shape of improvements. And if something has been improved, I don't have to mention it in a, in my work. Let's put it that way. Stefan87 asks basically what I think about the current capture points A, B, and C, and that they have no real strategic value other than to be captured, for example, like a AAA position or a bunker. And yeah, basically I would support this idea. It would bring new flavor to tank RP, which also needs a new flavor. And yeah, it's in general a good idea. Again, maps should be reworked for that and so forth. So it's actually a very far leading topic, but yeah, in general, I'll agree to this. Another question comes from Tim Ulbrich, and he basically asks about the ME-163 and its propulsion system, basically the engine that can shut down and turn on again and so forth. This has been changed a long time ago due to the problem of it being pretty useless. And yes, I agree, it's pretty difficult to fly, and the only ones that really fly it are trolls that are really hardcore training in it, as far as I can tell. It's 30 millimeters with the limited amount of ammunition. It's just very weird to fly this plane. I don't get any pleasure out of it, to be honest, and for me this plane is dead, especially with the constant up tier to 9.0. It's just awful. End of discussion. Especially it being the first jet in the ME jet line. So it's just awful. Tech Priest asks if I will ever put some dank memes in my editing, like many miles away, or are Germans are far too serious for that. First of all, if the situation allows it, I might add some memes. I've done a few of them in the past, but it's not like I'm focusing on it. I mean, I'm already pretty diverse in what I cover within War Thunder, you know, with in the past arcade, realistic, even spreading out to simulator, in planes, in prop planes, jets, high tier tanks, mid tier and low tier tanks. I'm focusing already on normal gameplay, normal commentary, first impressions, tank reviews, comparison, you know, discussion. What else should I do? There's just so much that I can do. I mean, at some point to cover all the stuff that is there in War Thunder, I need to stream for. I mean, sometimes I should use certain possibilities to use here and there a dank meme, but it's not my main objective when making a video. Another question from Tech Priest is, what about Italian CAS? It's looking very grim currently. When Italian tanks come out, it might be devastating for their win rate. Yeah, well, I talked about this in the past before, that the Italian CAS is just awful, like the Japanese one. And when we then look at the CAS potential of the French, well, bless their American planes. So yeah, you're absolutely right. Chief 1964 asks basically if Gaijin should make a patch about improving the gameplay experience, and in short, yes, this is what I talked about so often. I'm actually wondering if you follow my videos, if you ask a question like that. Then Will the Beast asks, for next Duck Talks, do you think the T-34 is good, and do you want the T-30 added? First of all, the T-34, I think you're talking about the American heavy tank. Yes, it's really good with the really great 120mm armor piercing shell and the strong armor. It's a good tank, but compared to some other tanks it might not shine as well. For example, the T-29. The T-30, I think that was the tank with the 155. Well, it depends which stats it gets, which ammunition it gets, how reliable it is, which armor it gets, and which battle rating it will get. So I'm always open for new tanks, but we not just should put one nation full of stuff at one battle rating and leave out stuff for other nations at the same. For example, the Russians at 6.7, they don't have that much anymore, and the IS-6 1944 together with the premium version got a battle rating reduction to 6.3. The T-34-100 and the Type 62, the one as a premium and the other one as a reward vehicle, are still there at 6.7 together with the SU-100P, I guess, and it's not as prevalent anymore as it once was. And then America is full of 6.7. I mean, look at the huge amount of 6.7 vehicles in the premium tech tree and in the normal tech tree. It's a huge amount, so I don't know what to think about how the matchmaker ever should work. Yeah. Another question comes from Asif Talpur, and he basically asks if tanks should be able to share fire prevention equipment, especially in a squad. Yeah, nice idea, additional to the repair support and so forth, and together with the possibility to refill it. About the chance of fire getting caused there, it depends which kind of fire extinguishing system it is. If it is foam, yeah, there might be the possibility of a reduced fire chance, but then again, how long will it last? I mean, an engine is hot and it will vaporize the water, and if it's CO2, you know, after the fire is extinguished, the CO2 is gone. So I'm not quite sure about the probability of the next shot should have a reduced chance of setting the engine or the fuel tanks on fire. Dalma23 asks what I think about the SU-100P, and he thought I would fail horribly in this, and then I got 6 kills, and he really asks, if this tank is any good. First of all, if you have a question like this about a specific vehicle, try to find a video on this vehicle that I made. Just enter the desired vehicle in the search box of YouTube and enter my name, and you might get a hit. If not, you're free to ask the question. I mean, you always can ask it. The SU-100 is a bit strange, okay? It's like an RU-251, but with a fixed mounted gun, and it's a 100mm Russian APHE launching thing that destroys everything at sight. Of course, it's usable. I think it's quite fun actually, because it's so ridiculously fast. Then an interesting question from NickTune1219. I got a question, how how the hell do you figure out what to talk about in Duck Talks? How do you prepare? Well, first of all, I write down some things that I want to talk about, what happened last week, what Gaijin did, some predictions, you know, stuff that comes to my mind that I want to talk about. Sometimes I collect some stuff over the week, and then I just look at the topic point, and then I just talk about it as I go along. Sometimes when I think that the commentary is too long, I stop it and just simply reduce it, at least that one part. For a Duck Talks that would be pretty long, I mean they take up to 2 hours to make and so forth, without the rendering and uploading and making a thumbnail of it, of course. So there is that, and then I just simply read through the comment section of the previous Duck Talks and you know, answer the questions that there are. For example, yours. The International Tank Train asks, what is your opinion on the Germans constantly getting uptiered from 5.7 to 6.7 and from 6.7 to 7.7? First of all, 5.7 is just awful to play, especially against the Brits, and I don't know where it comes from. Maybe the German tanks get at 5.7 get played so much that the matchmaker just has to distribute them all along, and you know, the only gap where the matchmaker can fill them in is at 6.7. On the other hand, 6.7, as you noticed, always get up tiered to 7.7, and this is the 7.7 black hole. I have no explanation for this. At 7.7 why it actually happens that much, but at 6.7, you know, when I get up tiered as well with the Germans, and with, for example, the British or the Americans, I see so often a down tier. So how the matchmaker actually works is beyond any sort of discussable argumentation. It's weird. Okay. Again, I asked for a mirror matchmaking, and I happily would wait a few minutes more in the queue before I would get constantly up tiered. You know, if I get as many up tiers as I would get down tiers, I'd be okay with it. You know, give me 50 up tiers and 50 down tiers. I would be happy with this, and then I wouldn't complain about it. Okay. Yana Abramian asks, can I be in the next Duck Talks? No. Next question. Cerberol LM asks actually a highly interesting question. If you own a car, what kind is it, and what car would you want to own? Okay, that is a topic for an entire series of videos. There are not a lot of things that I'm actually interested in my life, but amongst the few things that there are, aside from War Thunder and chemistry, cars. Cars are pure passion for me. Cars can be something that you know, takes you from A to B. Mostly it's Russian then, but jokes aside, if I have a car, and it's an Audi A3 Quattro with a 2-liter diesel engine, and yes, it's one of those scandal diesels, but nevertheless it drives very well. It's a hell of a lot fun to drive it. It has a very powerful engine, and you know, I have a German Autobahn. Yeah, it can go way over 200 kilometers an hour, and I use it on a regular basis, and it doesn't actually use that much fuel. In the normal driving, I use less than 5 liters of diesel per 100 kilometers. And you know, I don't drive that slow, to be honest. What I want to own, oh, that's well, where to begin? There is one car, and one car only, that I want to drive once in my lifetime, and it's the Audi 90 IMSA GTO. That car just has an engine from another star, a stupidly turbocharged 5-cylinder engine that has a sound it's just absurd. Okay, it's awesome, it's exciting, it's loud, it's just pure fury on wheels, and it actually was too fast in the IMSA GTO race series that actually it was forbidden to take part in the next year's series by the Americans because it was too fast for their drivers. That is how ridiculous this car is. And I just love it. I love the look, I love the engine sound, I love how you have to drive with left foot braking, and you know, where the braking point is and which kind of line you can use on the track due to the quattro drive system, how the turbo engine works. It's just absurd. You look at the car and you think to yourself, this could never work, and then it has this insane, ridiculous performance. I love it, okay? And even modern cars are, well, there is a problem with modern cars. They are too perfect. They have no character. They are just... I've driven a Porsche and I thought, oh, this is gonna be awesome. You know, 360 horsepower. And, yes, and then it was just like a faster potato. Uninteresting, okay? It was... I have no words for it, okay? It was boring as all fuck, and I was so disappointing. It was so disappointing, and I was disappointed to such a degree I had no words for it. Okay, yeah, sure. From 200 kilometers an hour upwards, it kept accelerating, but it was not this smacking experience that I expected. It was far from it. It was smooth and smooth and smooth, and no sound, and not loud, and just boring. And by the way, it was in race mode, so I was thinking, what the fuck is this potato? And it's not me being against Porsche, and yes, it's called Porsche and not Porsche. Porsche, yeah, it's a German word. Treat it as such, with respect. In before he butchers some English car maker names. Yeah, Corvette. I love the sound of those muscle cars. Ford GT, you know. Ferrari, I actually do not like. The old Lamborghinis, absolutely fantastic cars. They tried to murder it. You have to love them for that. The new Lamborghinis are just big Audis. Too perfect, uninteresting, you know. McLaren SLR 722, you need to love this car. I mean, it's just all that you want, to a certain degree, aside from the IMSA GTO, of course. Yeah, it's so many good. That was a hell of a question, and I hope I didn't answer it too long. Yana Abramayan asks again, what is your favorite game besides War Thunder? Well, there have been a handful of games. I began to play with the Command & Conquer series. Tiberium Sun is still one of my favorite games. I haven't played it in a long time. Then the Stronghold series, it's stupidly old, stupidly simple, and I love it for it. It's a hell of a lot of fun to build your own castle and so forth. Anno 1503, highly complex, love it for that. Crisis 2, fantastic looking games. Yeah, World of Warships from time to time, and that's about it, I guess. So just a handful of games that I ever played, really, and of course Subnautica, but that's a different topic. Jonathan Morris asks, how do you get your gun sights red? I'm jealous. I made an entire guide about this, but in short, it's in your options, okay? Use my guide on long range shooting on it, and I explained it in detail how you can set it up. Then Sean simply asks, hi Napalm, you have plans to introduce other games in the channel? Well, I tried with Subnautica, it hilariously failed when it comes down to the views. It's not that I specifically work on me growing channel wise, but to really focus on War Thunder. If my channel for some bizarre reason would take off, maybe I would diversify into other games, but there is not really much that would interest me. I mean, World of Tanks, it's garbage, you know, with the spotting system and the stupid premium and power creep that to a certain degree we also experience within War Thunder at the moment. World of Warships, maybe. There I have a pretty good progress. I could work on this, but some AAA titles, forget about it. I will never ever buy anything from EA. This company can burn in hell. Hopefully. It shouldn't just die quietly. The practice of this company is just disgusting. And not just EA, other big companies as well. And in this respect, you suddenly look at War Thunder and think to yourself, well, actually not the worst principle. Then Aha asks again, hey Napalmratte, for how long have you been playing War Thunder for, and how did you discover it? Well, first of all, I'm approaching 5 years of playing this one game, and I got introduced by it by Jingles when he was making a video about the Catalina bombing an airfield to Slytherins. I loved it, and I thought to myself, well, let's download it. What's the worst thing that can happen? He asked 5 years later. So yeah, Jingles brought me into it. Another question from Gregory Slobinski is if I would agree to the idea of limiting the amount of planes each team can have at one time in Tank RB. Well, it's difficult to limit that, because let's say that's the last available vehicle a player can spawn, and suddenly he can't spawn it, so effectively he's out of the match. So in theory, yes, maybe limiting it, and especially preventing the last player from spawning a plane to run away. That'll be a good idea in my opinion. But in practice, it wouldn't work. It would be way too complicated with too many exceptions and whatnot. RSR Remington asks, what recording software do I use for War Thunder? And he has problem with shadow play because of a lot of pixelization. First of all, my shadow play that I use works fine. I have set it up normally, I guess. I have no idea what your issues are, but I use shadow play as well. So maybe your version is outdated, or your PC can't handle the high resolution that you're playing yourself. I don't know what the issue is. So I use shadow play myself. Another question from Ahei is, what do you say to my idea for War Thunder Ground Forces if Gaijin should implement a feature like limited amount of fuel in a tank? I would hate it. Especially when it comes down to the fuel consumption, the fuel amount, and so forth. It would be as much of a mess as it is in planes at the moment. People might not really be aware of the problem that the amount of fuel is a problem for planes, but it really is an issue. So for tanks, no. So at this point in time, I think I answered any questions that I could easily answer, he said, after 35 minutes of just answering comments. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed it. At this moment my throat gets really rough. Talk too much, I guess, which is a new one for me. So yeah, at this point in time, thanks for watching, thanks for listening. Please give this video a like if you did, subscribe if you want to see more, and we'll see each other in the skies and on the battlefields of War Thunder.